Hey guys, I actually can't believe it myself either, and that is because we're going to be doing a green hybrid deck profile on the channel featuring AncientBeetlemon for the very first time. Hello Digimon players and fans, welcome back to another Digimon deck profile and in-depth building guide video. Just before we get started with the video, I got something really cool to share with all of you. If you guys haven't watched our newest Battle of Series with Jodobi just yet, be sure to check that out and add it to your watch list right now. In our latest Battle of Next Adventure series, we covered 2 deck profiles, including Black X Antibody and Cherubimon. We also got a very epic battle against each other with those 2 decks, so definitely remember to watch that after this video as well. Now to start off, I'm not really too much of a green player ever since playing the Digimon card game. The color is not really my favorite, the mechanics has never been very favorable to me, but there are several really good reasons why I feel that I should cover this deck on the channel. Number 1, it can be considered as tier 1 or at least tier 1.5 competitive deck of the format. Number 2, it is incredibly easy to play, especially for new players to get into the game. And like always, we got a combo guide to teach you guys on how to play this deck so you can master it right after watching. And number 3, most importantly, this deck is extremely budget friendly, where the total of this deck only costs even less than $40 with the side deck included. Now please do keep in mind that all the total prices that I accumulated are based on during the time of making this video, so prices are subject to change. But like we always do, let's start off with a quick introduction and rundown of the Green Hybrid package from BT7. The new Green Hybrid cards from the Next Adventure set highlights what Green does best. The deck can get you into your level 6 Digimon incredibly fast by digivolving with different effects. But not only that, it can suspend your opponent's Digimon and deal damage with piercing along with security trashing effects at the same time. By combining all these aspects together, the deck performs surprisingly good. But do you know what is even more surprising? Well, that is 77% of you guys who are watching right now are not even subscribed. So if you haven't done so yet, be sure to do so right now. That is because we got lots more Digimon content coming up for all of you. Also give this video a like while you're at it because it really helps. With that out of the way, let's now begin with our deck profile. Digi-Egg cards. We got the 4 copies of Pinamon and 1 copy of Minomon. Now both these Digi-Egg cards can activate their inherited effects as long as you're attacking into your opponent's Digimon. Pinamon gives you draw power, Minomon on the other hand gives you attack power. Now I personally like to prioritize draw power a bit more over Minomon, which is why I play 4 copies of the Pinamon and 1 copy of the Minomon. But however, some of you guys who have a different style and preference, you can actually even go 4 copies of Minomon and then 1 copy of Pinamon. But I like to say that drawing power is much more important, and simply because that green doesn't really offer that much draw power in general, which is why Pinamon becomes really important to sort of fulfill that role. So that's how I go with these 5 eggs right here. Starting with the rookies, we got 3 copies of the new Betamon from BT7. On play, you get to review the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 green level 4 Digimon card or a green Tamer among them and put them into your hand, place the remaining to the bottom. This is your very important on-play searcher for the deck, and 3 copies is just the right amount. Next up, I'd like to play 3 copies of Cherubimon, simply because there's a lot of memory gaining right now with many different effects, and Cherubimon basically shuts that off. Maximizing this to 4 is not necessary, but playing 3 is, I personally think, a must-have for sure, and it definitely shuts off a lot of decks and slows them down, which is really important in this particular format. And then we have our 2-cost vanilla drops of the 2-cost Argomons right here with 3000 DP, simply because we can just either digivolve or play it with a hard play and sort of manipulate the memory gauge very easily, which I really like when I do it in this deck as well. So I like to play the 3 copies. And then we have the 4 copies of Bokomon. Bokomon is just so good, incredibly good, especially along with this deck, comboing it with its memory gaining potential when you do digivolve into a hybrid. Not only that, it's also a very important searcher. Green doesn't have as much searching when it compares to yellow, blue, and red decks currently for the hybrids. So 4 Bokomons is actually very necessary, and I feel like it's really important because you can get your combo pieces a lot faster with him as well. That's why 4 copies is a must. Next, I actually like to play 2 copies of Nemon. Kind of testing this one out at the moment, but Nemon just works very nicely because we always digivolve onto our Tamer, a hybrid into our Tamer, and if we want to swing, whether into security, swing to Digimon, and do checks. And just in case if we do get deleted by battle or get deleted from security, Nemon really gives us the viability of allowing us to play our mainly our JP Tamer back again and again, and cycling it and keeping a good consistent flow of it, which is really important for the deck as well, which is why I like Nemon. So that's it for the rookies. Now let's start off with our champions, and the level 4s is basically all of them are hybrids. The first one we have is Beetlemon. Beetlemon can digivolve on top of a Tamer for the cost of 2, and when digivolving, it allows us to search, revealing top 5 cards of our deck, and then we get to add 1 hybrid Digimon with its traits, and then 1 JP from as well, and add it to our hand. So, you know, really important to maximize the copies of this one once again, because this is your other main searcher of the deck, and it is a level 4, but it's really important to basically play as many of it as well. Next up, we got 4 copies of the Metal Cherubimon right here. Once again, this one can digivolve on top of a Tamer for a cost of 2, or it can slide digivolve into from another level 4 for the cost of 1. This one is really nice because when digivolving, as long as you have a hybrid or JP in Digivolution traits of the sources, you can basically suspend your opponent's Digimon with 6000 DP or less. And then what makes this really good is that you can follow up by swinging over your opponent's Digimon and deleting them. And we also got some really cool combos and quick combos to showcase you guys how to really fully utilize optimally this play along with this card right after the deck profile. So stick around for that as well. And then last but not least, we got the 2 copies of Arumon, just an extra hybrid that we can play in case when we don't see them. But this one doesn't do anything. It just really just digivolves on top of our Tamer for 2. Sometimes really great for making extra checks when we need to for the extra swing for pressure. But yeah, another 2 is must as well. That'll be all of our level 4s. And moving to our level 5s, we only play the 1 type of level 5, which is the 4 copies of Rhinokabuterimon. This card is incredibly good because this enables your full combos, and this card is basically the bridge to bring your really good combos into even better combos when playing it. So it's really important, just like any other level 5 hybrid within this set, this can digivolve, reduce its digivolution cost by 2 as long as you're digivolving on top of a Digimon that has a Tamer underneath in its sources. Now when attacking, if this card has hybrid or insectoid in its traits, in its Digivolution sources, you can digivolve a Digimon with insectoid or 10 warriors from your hand by paying the memory cost of 3 only. This basically pseudo reduces costs. It actually dodges reducing costs because it doesn't actually reduce the cost, it straight up just says you pay 3 memory. So this card actually is really good because cards like Syakomon and Cutemon won't work against this effect. Now, it was really nice because you'll be doing this while attacking, and then you can basically digivolve into your megas and your level 6s with this card, which is incredibly powerful, which is why we play the 4 copies of the AncientBeetlemon right here, which is your boss Digimon of the deck, and the new boss Digimon for green in BT7. AncientBeetlemon has a once per turn, your turn effect when one of your Digimon with 10 warriors or hybrid in its traits deletes an opponent's Digimon by battle and survives. You get to trash the top card of your opponent's security, and trashing security this format is really good because the security usually revolves around having Tamers, maybe options, or some cards that can do a lot of things, and power wise the security is not strong, but they can play stuff from the security more likely in this format, and being able to trash those gives you the really huge advantage, especially when it comes to any hybrid matchups when your opponent has a lot of Tamers stacked in their security, which is why AncientBeetlemon is incredibly powerful. Second to that, its second effect is on deletion, you can play a green hybrid level 4 or lower Digimon from your hand without paying any memory cost, which is also really nice, so that you can, gives it a little bit of a floating capability. And then for our other level 6, we played AncientGreymon. You guys remember in the Battle of Sealed series for BT6, I mentioned that this card is going to be so good and is absolutely tier 1. It's AncientGreymon. This card is gonna make green like tier 1, tier 0 essentially. I guarantee you guys that. Why are you laughing? Nothing. Well, turns out that I'm actually 100% correct because right now we're playing this card in this deck because it's just so good again. Opponent's turn. When an opponent's Digimon attacks, you can suspend up to 2 of their Digimon without blocker. And this basically slows down your opponent's plays, slows down your opponent's swings to get you really good control of the board during the game state as well. Also, its second effect is exactly the same as AncientBeetlemon. On deletion, you can play 1 green hybrid, level 4 or lower Digimon card from your hand without paying its memory cost. Now, Ancient Troy is just, like I said, a 2-of works very nicely in this deck. So that'll be all of our level 6s and our Digimon overall. Let's now show you guys the Tamers, and we play quite a handful of them. The first one is the 4 copies of JP right here. I'd say this Tamer is the most consistent Tamer out of the entire BT7 format. Simply because, first off, just like any other Tamers, you can play it from security for free, but also when this Tamer digivolves into a green Digimon, you can reduce the Digivolution cost by 1, making your hybrids that usually cost 2 only cost 1 to digivolve. And not only that, it provides piercing, which combos very nicely along with your entire synergy of the deck essentially, because you focus a lot on suspending your opponent's Digimon and you focus a lot on swinging over the Digimon, and the piercing allows you to deal damage to them while doing so, meaning that you're sort of clearing their board and clearing their security at the same time, which is why JP at 4 is a must-have. Next, I actually play 4 copies of the Izzy from starter deck for Giga Green right here. This one is a 2-cost Tamer, and the main reason I play it is because of its 2 costs. It's very cheap, but also your turn, when one of your opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, you can suspend this Tamer to gain a memory, which works very nicely and synergizes the whole playstyle of the deck overall, and giving you more memory allows you to make more plays. Now, the only sort of downside about this card is that when you do suspend this card and you do try to digivolve a hybrid on top of it, it will stay suspended, which is kind of unfortunate, but that's totally fine because it's a very cheap Tamer to begin with anyways, and there's a lot of ways to work around it. So Izzy is still that good anyways. And then for the last Tamer that we play 3 copies of Ken right here. Ken is basically our memory Tamer, starts our turn at 3 memory every single time. And during your turn, when one of your green or blue Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon by battle and survives, you can suspend this Tamer to gain a memory. Once again, very similar to Izzy's effect, but you know, being able to also have more reliable sources to gain memory through Tamers is really nice, because there's no cards that can shut off Tamers when it comes to gaining memory, and that's what makes Ken really nice. So that is it for our Tamers. Now let's move into the options. The new option card in BT7 and dedicated for this deck is Thunder Laser. This is Cherubimon signature move, and what it does is basically like Needle Spray, but for a cost of 1. If you have a Digimon with hybrid or 10 warriors in its traits, you suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. So like I mentioned earlier, the whole idea is to basically suspend your opponent's Digimon and swing over them and get a lot of value out of it, which is why this card is really good. And not only that, the security effect allows you to add this card back to your hand, so then you can basically use up for follow-up combos, which is really nice. Last but not least, once again, this option card I'm sort of like testing around, playing around. It works quite well overall, really. And that's basically Evolution Ancient. It's a 0 cost. As long as you have a Digimon with hybrid and its traits, you don't have to meet its color requirements. It basically allows you to turn your level 4s straight into your level 6s, and all of our level 6s are the 10 warriors, being the AncientBeetlemon and AncientGreymon, like I mentioned, which is really good and comes in real handy, so that you can skip Digivolve and, you know, get your level 6 out in the pressure much more quicker. So that will wrap up for the main deck, and let's, as usual, talk about some of the side deck cards. But let's begin by talking about a few of the cards that we can take out from the main deck as considered as flex cards. The first one I kind of would like to say is Nemon. 1 copy of it is really useful generally already, so maybe having 2 is not highly necessary. And then the other one will actually be one of the Izzies. Since we have 4 copies, bumping down to 3 is not too bad overall. And then last would also be Evolution Ancient. These 3 cards are definitely 100%, you know, sort of the flexible cards that you can easily take out for the deck. Now, let's jump into the side deck and sort of talk a bit about more in detail. The first card I like to, put on the side deck ready, which is another copy of Cherubimon. This is because there's sometimes you're just facing some decks such as blue that gain a lot of memory and they do a lot of memory manipulation, or even Jesmon per se, and you want to maximize the Cherubimon, which really helps once again. Now moving on to the other suggestions, here's a very interesting one, because we have 3 copies of Argomon right here. Argomon is an incredibly good card for this specific format. First of all, it can Digizorb -2, so you can basically reduce its Digivolution cost by 2 and Digivolve on top of level 5 for only cost of 2. And that's basically one of the cheapest megas out there with an effect as well. When Digivolving, you suspend all your opponent's Tamers, and also all turns, your opponent's Tamers don't unsuspend, meaning that it's basically really good against any other hybrid deck matchup essentially. This shuts off them entirely, which is really crucial, which is why I play 3, because in certain matchups you want to slide all 3 in. Now, since you're going to be playing Argomon, there's actually some level 5s I would suggest, and you guys might have noticed that we're missing in the main deck. And this is the other sort of like the Argomon package I'll put in. We got the other Argomon that's level 5 Digisorption of 3, and also has a inherited where you can play a level 3 green Digimon from your hand unsuspended without paying its memory cost when attacking. Also, we got Blossomon once again for Digisorption 3 to help you get into your Argomon extremely crazy fast, because all you need to do is have 3 memory and you can get into it. The other option, not option, but like the other side deck card I'm sort of experimenting with right here is the 2 copies of Dorugoramon. This one is also another hybrid that you can Digivolve on top of a Tamer for the cost of 3, and it has piercing. So I'm sort of playing around. This one in some sort of matchups, it has 7,000 DP, which is pretty good, so they can swing over a lot of things, and the piercing does come in handy in some scenarios. Now, the last 2 level 6s I would like to show you is also very interesting. We got 1 copy of the Nidhoggmon, which is very situational, and you can, against certain matchups, once again, you can actually board wipe your opponent, because once you Digiburst for 4, you basically return all their suspended Digimon and 5,000 DP back to the bottom of the deck, which is extremely good. And then the other one, which is a really nice tech, which I think is actually a really good counter against blue, which is AVAULT. When Digivolving, you suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, then you gain 1 memory for each of your opponent's suspended Digimon. Also, opponent's turn, all your opponent's Digimon gain. Your turn, you must trash 1 card in your hand to unsuspend this Digimon. This also includes in the unsuspend phase for your opponent, which is really good, because not a whole lot of decks have resources in their hands, and having to pay and make the choice and play around makes it very uncomfortable for your opponent, and does put them in a very awkward situation. And that's where you want to put them with AVAULT. So depending on certain matchups, this is a really nice card to tech in. Now, you guys can see that there's a couple of level 6s right here. And when you're ever siding these level 6s in, I would highly recommend siding the level 5s of Argomon and Blossomon into your deck as priority as well, along with them. Now, what would happen? Because we're going to show you guys what you want to do with your level 6 package here at this point. Because you have the 2 copies of AncientGreymon and the 4 copies of AncientBeetlemon in your main deck. And you don't want to be shoving too many level 6s in here, because you can start breaking yourself. So really depending on the matchup that you want to identify, I would say AncientGreymon is mainly the Digimon that's easily sideable against your opponent. So if you want to go against any of those hybrid decks, I would side off the 2 AncientGreymons and basically slap in the 3 copies of Argomon, and then you would spot something else in addition from your main deck out as well. So you have this full line of full line of level 6s, or you can even do 3 and 3, which works out very well, and play that very heavy control based style as well. And then if not, you can also go into your Nidhogg like this, and then with 1 AncientGreymon, that works as well. If not, you can also do this, which works out very nicely. And then back to the level 5s, like I mentioned, you would side out the other cards that I showed you earlier, these 3 cards right here, which includes the Neemon, Izzy, and Evolution Ancients. So that's how I sort of go around with the side deck strategy for this particular build. So combo time, guys. Just like
basically any other combos I showcase on my videos, you always want to have 3 memory at the beginning, whether your opponent passes you the 3 or you have a Ken on the field, so that you can basically be at 3 starting your turn, which is very, very reliable. So the first thing is you want to sort of mostly see your full Beetlemon or Kabuteru Beetle line in your hand to sort of pull this off. So what you want to do is basically Digivolve onto Beetlemon onto JP, and because of JP, it will reduce its cost by 1, so you only pay 1 memory at this point. Now you want to use Beetlemon's effect to search, and most importantly, you want to grab these missing pieces if you don't have any of these guys, the option you can't grab. So then the next thing what you want to do is Digivolve your Beetlemon into Metal Kabuterimon for 1, and then because you do control a hybrid within its sources or JP, you get to suspend your opponent's Digimon with 6000 DP or less. So once you suspend it, you're ready to go swing in. But that's not all, because now next you pay another 1 memory to Digivolve it into Rhino Kabuterimon right here. Because you do control a Digimon with Tamer and its sources, you can reduce his cost by 2 by going down to 1 only. And then now, this is the situation where you would swing in over that Digimon that has 6000 DP or less. Now, once you swing in, you would use Rhino Kabuterimon's effect to allow you to Digivolve your AncientBeetlemon from your hand for a cost of 3. In some other situations, you might have AncientGreymon, that totally works. Both of them essentially become 3 and not 5, which is really, really good. So you go ahead and do that. And now it's most optimal with AncientBeetlemon, because now you would swing over that opponent's Digimon. You get to resolve its trashing effect to trash your opponent's security. And then you also get the piercing, and it's at 13k, which is very difficult to go over, essentially. So he can go over almost any security in this format, which is really, really nice. Worst case is worse. If he does get deleted, then you get to play a level 4 hybrid from your hand. But that's not all, because now you can even use your Ken and suspend him. Since you do delete an opponent's Digimon, you can suspend him and gain a memory back, surpassing your opponent at 2. And all that took was basically you having 3 memory in the beginning with all these cards, and looking at this combo, and you stack all the way through, which is incredibly powerful. Now that first combo was not the only way just to pull this off, because once again, instead, if you don't have Metal Kabuterimon in your hand, all you need is Thunder Laser, which does exactly the same thing. So you can basically Digivolve onto your JP with Beetlemon for a cost of 1, and then this time, instead, whichever order is fine, you can play Thunder Laser instead and tap your opponent's Digimon and suspend it. And this one doesn't even have a restriction, because you can suspend any Digimon. And then afterwards, you go pay 1 to go into Rhino Kabuterimon right here. And then once again, you swing in with Rhino Kabuterimon, using its when attacking effect to go into your AncientBeetlemon, which you guys would probably even notice this combo is even better, because you can actually pull it off right here as well, exactly the same way as the previous combo. But the only difference is that you don't have Metal Kabuterimon. So Thunder Laser is also really, really important, which is why we play the 3 copies like I mentioned earlier. Now let's showcase in a different scenario. Let's just say you don't have Ken, so you can't get your memory to 3. You can actually pull this combo off with 1 memory only, and all you need is Bokomon present. As you guys can see, Bokomon is incredibly good, because now you can Digivolve once again your Beetlemon on top of JP for a cost of 1, and then Bokomon will give you gain 2 memory. So this essentially makes this combo where Bokomon and Beetlemon equals that you get a memory back in your turn just for Digivolving a hybrid on top of a Tamer. Now, how good is that? That's actually true value, which is really, really insane and really, really good. And now you can continue to do the exact same combos as before. Again, if you have Metal Kabuterimon, you can go Metal Kabuterimon on top. Or if not, you can go Thunder Laser and suspend your opponent's Digimon. Whichever you do, it's still 1 cost, essentially. Afterwards, you go into your Rhino Kabuteri for 1 right here. And then you once again repeat that exact same combo, swing in with Rhino Kabuteri, and then go into your AncientBeetlemon to top it off right here for the exact same combo, which is really, really wow, really, really strong, and really powerful. Which is why I feel that the green deck emphasizes on a much more better combo synergy in many different ways to achieve the same goal, which is really, really nice.
That will conclude my very own deck building strategy and in-depth guide for the AncientBeetlemon and Green Hybrid deck. If you guys enjoyed the video and found it helpful, please give it a like. If you have any suggestions, recommendations, or questions, definitely share it with everyone in the comments section down below. We got lots more deck profiles coming up real soon, so once again, please do hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned. And one last time again, if you haven't seen our latest Battle of Nyx Adventure series, go check it out right now. As always, thank you so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.